I think Shigeru Miyamoto follows the pornography industry in terms of his storytelling ethos. It doesn't have to be a good story, but it has to be there. Nintendo games are not at all known for having good stories or any story at all. So I thought it would be fun to make a list of the best stories in Nintendo games. And while this could have just been a list of Fire Emblem games, much like Smash Ultimate is a list of Fire Emblem characters, I thought it would be fun to diversify a bit, and instead of just making a long Fire Emblem list, I'm really picking from a variety of Nintendo games. This list was actually harder than I thought. I thought it was going to be 10, and it ended up only being 6 entries, but with that being said, in no particular order, let's get started with Xenoblade Chronicles. Now, the reason that this game is on the list is because it is a very good traditional story, and there's not much else to say about it. I mean, the prologue starts with two gods fighting for all eternity. That's a pretty damn good setup. But like I said, this is a traditional story from a traditional JRPG. And if you're looking for a 90-hour, well-written, well-paced story, then Xenoblade Chronicles won't disappoint. There's not a lot of Nintendo games that offer this traditional story avenue. Here you have it with Xenoblade Chronicles, or any of the Xenoblade games for that matter. Next, let's talk Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime is, simply put, a masterstroke in storytelling. I mean, from that very first entry cutscene, when you land on that ship and you encounter the fate of the space pirates on board, there's just so much to be told from Metroid Prime. Just from playing the game, you can piece so much together. Now, a lot of the actual story is interesting, if not unremarkable, and it's told through these environmental logs where you scan random stuff to read about the lore. But like I said, the real meat and potatoes of the story is just the atmosphere and the clues that are left behind as you explore the planet and the ship. Now, Metroid Prime and a lot of these other games that I'm going to be talking about with the rest of the list are games which maybe aren't the best stories in the world, or in video games for that matter, but the way that they're told is unique. Nintendo is able to use video games in a way that you can tell a story through a book or a TV show or a movie for that matter. Nintendo is using the medium of video games to really tell a story in a different kind of way. And I think Metroid Prime is a good example of that. Next is Zelda Skyward Sword. So Zelda Skyward Sword is actually an interesting case study in that I think it's very controversial for a number of reasons in the Zelda community. Not only for the gameplay, not only for the linearity, not only for the controls, the repetitive boss battles. I could go on and on, or you could play the HD remake in a few months and check out my impressionist video on Skyward Sword. But the reason that Skyward Sword is an interesting case study is, as a bare bones story, if you were to just watch a cutscene of Skyward Sword, I think you would agree it is one of, if not the best Zelda stories out there. What's even more incredible is this Zelda game has the Herculean task of being the first game in the timeline, and it does so, takes on that task in a very satisfying way, taking all of the weaving plot threads of the Zelda. I mean, it's a Zelda epic, right? They're loosely connected, and it loosely brings everything back to a satisfying root and a satisfying beginning in an unexpected way that I was personally happy with. So in terms of a game having the weight of 30 years of games behind it on various levels of technology with various different producers, and being able to come up with a satisfying inceptive lore, I think Skyward Sword largely succeeds. Next is Fire Emblem Three Houses. So Fire Emblem Three Houses, much like the Metroid Prime game and the games to come, uses video games in a unique way, and that is you really get to fully experience the story from three complete different perspectives while playing as a character and role-playing from three different perspectives. And all of these different avenues that you can take in Three Houses, the 5 different endings, are all really unique. They're all very divergent. They're all equally as rewarding. And what's even more impressive is you are able to fall in love with characters that you had previously hated in different playthroughs. And yeah, this can take hundreds of hours to see everything Fire Emblem Three Houses has to offer. While it might not be the best paced story, it is certainly worth experiencing. Next is Earthbound, the oldest game on this list. Defeating the universal cosmic destroyer Gygus is no easy task for young boy Ness in this parody of America, and where Earthbound really shines is the wackiness of the scenarios and the writing that you get into. The stuff that happens in Earthbound, without spoiling anything, is just simply bizarre, erratic, and just straight out of your wildest fantasies. It is one of the most creative, artistic, and uniquely visioned Nintendo games ever, and that's saying a lot for Nintendo. And last but not least is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Probably no surprise to anyone, Majora's Mask is definitely the easiest to get a little crazy on your high school literature class and trying to overly analyze the story of this game, reading into it way too deep. I mean, there's theories of Link being dead and the temples are his 5 stages of acceptance. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy theories about Majora's Mask. The writing is open enough for you to explore. The themes around death are uniquely dark for Nintendo and is a unique look into a more mature tone for the company. And the story is actually very good overall, especially for a Zelda game and a Nintendo game for that matter. So those are some of the highlights for Nintendo stories that I was able to find. If you have one that you think belongs on this list, let me know down in the comments. Until then, that is all, and I will catch you next time.